Okay, who's going to kick off?
I'll start today. Hello, welcome back. We are going to work through the fourth discipline today, trusting the process. I am Karen Preston. I am a certified professional coach and values expert. Very excited to that we had an opportunity to work through the levels last week and see how they will all fit in as well. And so, Nancy, take it away.
So I am Nancy Kobel. I am also a certified professional coach. I focus on life and leadership, and I'm also a certified Dare to Lead facilitator, so helping develop some brave and courageous leaders out there. Karen.
I am the other Karen, and I'm Karen Bonnett, Natraj, and I work with individuals and athletes to become the best versions of themselves. I'm also a certified coach, and I'm certified in the energy assessment that I work with my clients on.
Good. And I'm Franzese, and I'm a business and leadership coach. I help my clients create small wins so that they can achieve big wins. And considering the discipline that we're working on today, I want to let you know that we take this process of creating those small wins to big wins by learning how to see and release pain, fears, worries, frustrations, and then allow the client to step into their highly individual success zone, being equipped to with an open mind and the ability to be curious and have a passion to go after and acquire information and knowledge. And we expand and develop this through life experiences of trusting the process. And so with that fourth discipline, trusting the process is that ability to be, there's lots of ways to look at this, but it's that ability to be willing to make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and adapt. And what will be fun today to talk about that is that externally, how that shows up. There's a lot of internal work that actually allows us to shift to create those external outcomes that we want. But we have to be able to trust the process and learn from within ourselves how we are. And then this process actually takes us to a deeper level. So, so that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's see where we've been. We had in episode 1, we talked about awareness. And awareness is the ability to actually see what is. And then we moved into acceptance. And acceptance was accepting what it actually is, the situation. And then we went into conscious choice, because once we can be aware to actually see what's happening through our lens and accepting what is happening in the moment, then we can make this conscious choice, this choice that we are conscious about. We're not just moving into it, we're just making a decision to consciously move into it based on those other items. So once we make a choice to take action, that's what making a conscious choice is, to go in and take action. And then we have to go through a system or process. So trusting the process is this discipline that really allows us to lean in. But it also can derail all the things that we just did: awareness, acceptance, and conscious choice. It can pull it down, because once we make a mistake and we judge that mistake, now we're back into sabotaging some of the things that we let go before. So I'll leave it there, because I think that there's a lot of opportunity in all that I just said. All right, who'd like to add on? Maybe.
I can add on.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a little quote here that I think is very prevalent, and it's by Nido Qubein, Qubein. I don't believe I'm saying that right, but doing my best. Your present circumstances don't determine where you go, but they merely determine where you start. And so we can take our first disciplines, the awareness, acceptance, and conscious choice, to experience ourselves in the trusting of the process and know that we can go from here and move forward. It's a process of learning and becoming a mastery of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. It's, yeah, because really it is trusting the process is learning in the moment. Because many times we can get, it's not, I think I like to look at it is it's not looking back. You know, we can always spend time in the past. And if we spend time looking for a reason of why something happens, we're not trusting the process. But if we look at a purpose of why something happened and reflect on it and bring it forward into how we can learn from it and how we can maybe do things differently moving forward without being attached to the outcome, which is the tricky part, but being fully present in the moment, and aiming towards mastery by learning. So it's reflecting on what's happened, but learning from it so that we can improve incrementally as we go forward.
Yeah, I like to see that when we refer back, you mentioned, Anne, how mistakes, and this is that really cool little process when we don't really walk into a situation saying we're getting ready to make a mistake. And if we do, then we're in our conscious mind choosing to make that mistake, right? That's our conscious choice. So when we're in that moment and then reflect back, right, Nance, like you were just saying, when we have that chance to reflect back, and that's when we begin to judge that it might have been a mistake. That's having the expectation of wanting to have done something different, and then now we judge it rather than just being able to say, I'm trusting that I'm still doing the best that I can, no matter what, based on where I am and my experiences. I can't be any different because this is who I am at this moment. And we only have the moment. So, yeah. Trust.
You know what? Right. What I love about it is that it allows us to experiment. So we can put on our scientist hat and we can go out and we can make something happen by trying. And then we can reflect on it and see what happened there and then adapt and move on.
Yeah. I want to go to when I was learning how to paddleboard, but racing on a paddleboard, not just paddleboarding, because you can. And I remember when I started and I was a complete beginner and I was trusting the process. Well, trying to trust the process and be present because I was paddling with these amazing athletes that were winning races and I was a complete novice at this point. But the one thing they kept telling me is just focus on your stroke. And that's all you need to focus on is just focus on your stroke. Don't get caught up in what those guys are doing over there or how to turn, but just focus on your stroke. And they'd all give me tips and they were all different because the key was I had to find my stroke based on what everybody else was doing. But it was once you focus on that and just really get that stroke down, then when you're faced with more challenging circumstances, the stroke is actually just going to be natural. It's not going to be something that you have to think about. So I think that's part of trusting the process is that we are going for mastery and it's one step at a time. So many times when we're going for mastery, we want to be at the end. We want to be the master when we're the beginner. And we compare ourselves to people that are the master and we start to judge ourselves, which gets us out of trusting the process. So trusting the process, I think that was a really good example of, okay, just focus on your stroke and master your stroke and figure out your stroke. And then when I got into situations, not with that group, because of course that group, they were really excellent, but I got into situations with high wind and I actually surprised myself with my ability to handle more challenging weather environment circumstances just simply by having my stroke down.
Yeah, I love that example. And that's that mindfulness really, because that's, again, in the moment, that's all you can be, your highest level of potential in any given moment, right? The more you focus on how far you want to go or how fast you want to get there, you lose your ability to only do what you can in the moment.
Yeah.
What you can do in the moment really is focus on your stroke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Karen,
So
you had that with running, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And even for trusting the process is that sometimes we don't give ourselves the ability that we already know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Know you know how to do it. And so it's just like what you were saying, Nancy, you had to learn these particular techniques. But then you get beyond that, and then we start analyzing ourselves and judging ourselves and falling backwards to where if you just deal with and just know that you know, and you're going to do your best, because that energy level comes up and you're going to have more energy to expend on that creativity part of yourself, and your brain is going to be more accepting. And then you fall right into just trusting yourself, trust that you know. And so my worst of my 3 sports is the swimming. And I can sit here and do this out on land, get that rhythm going. But then when I get in the water, I'm doing something else. And it's like, well, when I start off, I feel like I'm doing really good, and then I fall apart. So I'm out there thinking about, well, how analyzing myself, trying to see if I can see myself in the water and what am I doing, blah, blah, blah. But I found that when I just do it, I get into this really nice rhythm, and I'm actually letting go of the outcome and just trusting the process of being out there in the water and enjoying it. And I look there and it's like, oh, that's actually a pretty good pace. So we don't get caught up in our head. You know, we just let go, because you do know. We do know. It's back there in our subconscious mind.
I'd like to think it's probably a perfect opportunity to introduce the influencers here, because we've talked a little bit about what gets in our way, right? And so there's the social, emotional, mental, physical, environmental, and spiritual influencers that really are what make up how we get into our minds, thinking of everything else around us or within us, having nothing to do with that stroke, having nothing to do with how to achieve our best selves in that moment. The minute we allow an influencer in, then we're ruining our ability to be our best self, right?
And if I would kind of think about those that are watching us and trying to pull some information for themselves, like the examples that you gave, if they can think about the experience that they've had, and when they created a process to go after something that they want, where, what actions did you take, and when did you stop yourself from getting what you wanted? And think about if you had just trust the process and didn't let someone tell you something that made you divert, or some of these influences that you're mentioning that had put you on pause, right? But that's helpful, because this is how we learn and internalize, is by our own examples and by the things that we've done. I mean, it's the same for our coach journeys. As coaches, we've gone through a process, and this process is not just 2 months or 6 months. It takes years. And the same when I was learning how to play tennis. I mean, I started when my kids were young, so I decided just to go out there and take a lesson, learn that, and then I liked it enough that I said, hey, I want to learn a little more, until you get to the point that you can master. So it's with anything in life, and whether it's relationships or whether it's with your career, so personal life or professional life, families, you want to be a better parent, whatever you want to hone in on and what resonates with you in the moment, trusting the process is that process to help you get from little wins into this mastery mindset to engage. And as you engage and you make these little wins, what happens? Confidence starts going up. And as your confidence goes up, you change as a person. I mean, change, that's one of those words that, you have to decide which connotation do you take it. Do you take it negatively, that someone's making me change, or that you're willing and desiring to change? Because willing and desiring to change is growth. And that's what all of life is about, is how we look at these words, how we interpret these words, and where do we want to take it? And then getting into what are those forces that keep us from really getting what we want, because we can go after anything that we want, right?
Yeah.
So
I want to go back to the influencers, Karen, because you brought that up, and I had to smile because I brought up paddleboarding. And when I went for that race training team, one of my intentions was to actually challenge a limiting belief that I was not an athlete, and to use the influencers to help me in this new arena. Do you want me, can I share how I use them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to introduce them because I do think it's an important piece of all this.
I can easily relate it to the paddleboarding because I was novice. I said, okay, let me go join this race training team. Their motto was train to win. Now here I am challenging my limiting belief that I'm not an athlete, and I would never, that was never on the list to join a paddleboard race training team. So I used the influencers every time I went out for practice. So I signed up. I said, okay, sign me up, say yes, and then we'll figure it out. We had practice 3 times a week. Social, amazing team. So that's who do you surround yourself with? Who's going to support you? Sometimes you don't need people, but we are hardwired for connection. So I had a supportive group of people that cheered me on, that gave me the lessons that helped me. I surrounded myself with people that would help me embrace this new sport. Spiritual, my why. I was really clear on my why I was doing it. One was coaching mastery, but also challenging a limiting belief, having fun. I love to paddleboard, so I was going to expand that. My why was clear. Physical. Oh, that was fascinating. I found out I was anemic about a month into joining this team. So I had to be sleep, nutrition, hydration, all of those things that actually have our physical body optimally performing. I had to change my eating habits. Most of the time, I think one time I forgot to eat and it was apparent during practice because I had to go back, have a Red Bull and a Kind bar before I went back out because I was ready to pass out on the water, which is not a good thing. Mental mindset. I couldn't compare myself to these pro athletes I was paddling with. I had to keep my mindset that I was a beginner and really recognize where that is. Emotions, I'll share that one in a second. There's another one, isn't there? Oh, environment. We paddled in everything but lightning. So rain, wind. I live near the Chesapeake Bay, so it wasn't flat water. There could be side winds, there could be bumps, there could be waves, there could be boat traffic. So the environment, temperatures varied from 100 degrees and humid to 60 degrees and needing to wear a sweatshirt or sweatpants. Oh yeah, plus then if you're gonna fall off the board and you're in a bathing suit, it's like, okay, you have to get back on the board. You wanna make sure you're wearing a bathing suit that's for an athlete so that nothing falls out. So all that stuff, like that first season of doing this, that, yeah, the physical is also what you're wearing. So it's all that stuff, but all that mind stuff that was going on and figuring that out. But I want to go to the emotional one because that one was keeping that mindset open to learning and recognizing when I was going down the rabbit hole of not feeling good enough or not being able to keep up and starting to judge myself, that self of why am I on this race training team when they're training to win and I'm like way back at the end because my body strength wasn't strong yet and I was still building it up and they were getting better every week. And just recognizing that. And there was one time where we did timed runs, timed races, timed paddles to prepare for races. And so we'd race a mile and then a half a mile and we'd all start together. Okay. So we'd all start together and then we'd get to the mile. So of course they're all at the mile and I'm the last one coming in, but I'm paddling my heart out. And there was a boater that was yelling out to everybody and he was cheering them on, go, go, go. And then I'm last. So I'm thinking he's going to cheer me on. So I'm emotionally attached to his cheering me on. And I get to him and he yells out, you're dead last.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, right? So here I am paddling my little heart out, like as hard as I can. I'm near the end of the mile. My eyes are filling with tears because well, I think I went to sarcasm first. Like, no, sarcasm was no, can I swear?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So it was no shit Sherlock was going through my head. Tell me something I don't know, right?
Uh, like, really? Does that make you want to look behind you and be like, really? Am I? Oh, darn.
And then I realized he wasn't in the arena with me. He wasn't paddling. His voice didn't matter. And I just kept going towards the bridge where my teammates were. And then they started cheering me and supporting me. And I'm like, they're the ones that matter.
Mm-hmm.
They had my back and they were cheering me on and telling me to keep going. I was like, but it still hurt. So the emotions and being aware of that and then realizing he didn't matter. That's just a quick, and I would use those influencers every day before I went out for practice to check in and tune in where I was using the Scope app.
Yeah.
We'll put down in the notes if you want to check where my energy was each day before going on practice so I could make adjustments so I could be in that full place of learning. So there's a quick.
Yeah, it's important. These influencers are really important.
Well, and that goes back to show that it happens in everyday life. So for you, here you have the boater, he's one guy, but then you have your group. So what if you came up and your group was just all off and going and no one's there to cheer you on? How likely are you that you want to go back and do this again? Right? So we have to also think about who are our cheerleaders and who are our supporters. Who are those people that are pulling us away and keeping us from going further? We need to surround ourselves with cheerleaders. We need to be a cheerleader, right?
But we also need to be connected to our why.
Right.
And that makes some of that other nonsense.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Even if there is a social influence that may not be the most positive for you. If you're still with your why, then you can trust the process and not worry about the social influencer. So
Right.
I had said before about the social influencers can really mess with us. They can also influence us beautifully, positively, right?
Mm-hmm.
But being and discerning how they are influencing us really is the key.
Well, and that was one of the things about this trusting the process is so we can do as we're learning and about ourselves. And trust is a big word. It's hard to even think about. A lot of times we think, oh, can I trust that other person? Can I trust what's happening? But how do you trust yourself? Because then that takes deep work to really find out how you can be trusting and trust that instinct, hear it, know it, feel it. And a lot of times we are just in this upper surface level that we don't go there. We don't go to that depth. And so because we don't go to that depth and have that faith, I look at trusting the process on two levels. The surface level, where you're willing to make some mistakes and you're willing to move forward. And the second one, that deeper one, is that inner self. So it is more, you always want to have that purpose behind it, but you really can be attached to that purpose when you can trust yourself. When you can stand up, right? Some people can't stand up in a class. I think we were talking about that before, where some people just like to engage in a class from afar and not be at the forefront. So as a student, you might be back here just listening, taking it in, and then you've got the others who are in the front row and they're asking all the questions. So which one has more confidence? The one in the front row, not because they're in the front row, because they're asking the questions and they're front and center, because whatever experience they've had before has led them to be able to go do that, to feel confident in who they are. And others sometimes are more introverted. I know at heart I'm an introvert, but I've learned to be socially extroverted. And then that takes, there's a different way that we want to accept that information. I don't need to be in the front and raise my hand, but if I have a question, then I will go up forward and ask a question. So trusting the process, I feel, has that surface level and then this depth. And we can get sabotaged anytime. Just like on that paddleboard, you could just be knocked down from any of those influencers, right? Any of those. It's not just the water, but it's the people. It's all of those 8 influencers that impact that. So trusting the process is something we do each and every day, whether we're parenting or working, whatever it is. We're trying to work through that. But it's that greater faith. It's that, whatever that why, meaning that purpose of why we're here, trusting that we are here for a reason, whatever that divine spirit, God, whomever that is for you, that there's a purpose for you. You are here to make something happen, that there is a purpose.
Let's talk a little bit about what you mentioned something about, well, let's look at it this way. When you don't get what you're looking for, when you are attached to your outcome, how can we help our viewers understand really, truly how to trust the process when they're feeling like they're not getting their outcome? When you've let that influencer seep into your mind in a negative way, like, right where, Nancy, if you had said, oh my gosh, I am dead last, and that make you want to give up, right? Karen, in those times when you're, working toward getting to that finish line, and all those moments where you're like, I don't think I can do it. That I'm against the time, and I'm against my, I don't feel great. And, I haven't even gotten to base camp, and that it's past dark, and I'm not going to be able to stop and sleep. All these things that get in our minds, like how do we help them build the muscle, build that trust muscle?
So we have those first 3 disciplines: awareness, acceptance, and the ability to choose.
Yep.
And when you can make that conscious choice, you've learned enough to where you can trust and implement by trusting the process. You trust that you're doing your best. And so it's over time, you stay with, when you incorporate those first 3 disciplines, then trust the process. And so running my 100 is the awareness of what I was doing. I knew what I was doing, and I accepted where I was at. And I made that conscious choice to just embrace the journey. And that just sort of implements me trusting the process.
It changed things for you.
And it changes things. The things it changes is your internal energy.
Right.
And so it doesn't change the environment. It doesn't change the people that are amongst you. It doesn't change how people respond to you, but it changes how I choose to listen to it, how I choose to feel, how I make the conscious choice to be present and know that I've done the training, know that I understand the course, know the elements that I'm in. I had snow that I don't know how to ski. I had mud up to my knees. I had record heat. I had, on and on and on. And so that never changed how I chose to be in the present moment. Now, I brought my awareness to know that, yes, I'm in the mud. Yes, I'm doing record heat, but I never let it affect me. And so there was that underlining of trusting the process.
It's almost like I just had this little visual of when you're attached to the outcome, you can't trust the process.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. When you're attached to the outcome,
Be in the journey.
Yeah. It's a journey, and it's present. It's the present moment, and not knowing what the outcome's going to be.
Right.
We just don't. You
Exactly.
can't know.
Because we don't ever know. We're on a journey of life. Each step takes us to the next place, but we don't know where. We can have an idea, but we really do not know what the journey looks like, right?
And so we become the master of that journey.
Yes.
And we're not in the performance of the outcome.
Because we're able to be our best selves in that moment, because that is the only moment.
Right.
And that goes to, I'll just read a couple of these. Each of these disciplines that we have, there's some foundation principles that you've all cited them in here. But the 2 that I like here are that we are a work in process, okay? Trusting the process, that we're that work in process, and we are responsible for developing our own success formula, all right? And that's what we're doing when we're able to trust the process, because we are looking to find what makes us successful. And if we shut down because we had the failure, we won't find it, right? So we keep going, and we learn, we adjust, we learn, and we adjust. If you take driving a car, right? So what are you going to do? All of a sudden you get in the car and you back up and you can't, you go and you pull it and drive, and we're driving along and you need to park. Oh no, I have to parallel park. How am I going to do that? And so you give up on driving, or do you figure out how to learn to parallel park? And you practice and you practice and you practice until you get that done. But it's with anything that you want, where you want to go. So I don't want people to get confused that you don't have goals. You have goals, you set your goals, but it's how you get to your goals, the journey. And Nancy, could you comment on that imperfect journey?
Yeah. So what's coming to mind is that mindset, and I think it all goes together. It's not when I do X and Y and Z, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be successful. Then I'll have made it. Then I'll have it all figured out. That's not trusting the process. The trusting the process is in the moment. It's not like what you said, we still have goals and aspirations and visions, but we are present in the moment, and we're trusting that everything that happens has a purpose, right? And it takes time to reflect and learn and grow. So it's a journey of learning and mastery.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a destination.
Right.
Right.
So if we can I want to give this cool little visual here. I don't know if I've done this with this little group here on video, but I don't know how well you can see me. So we live our lives on this horizontal plane, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we look in our past and we see how there's all these different experiences, and we look at every experience and we bring it into our next day with us and our next, year. And it was an experience, and it's almost like we carry it like a bag of rocks with a story attached to it, And that bag of rocks can get really heavy as we continue to carry it. And then we look into the future and we see the anxiety and worry of what are we doing, where are we supposed to be, and where are we going, and what am I, and there's a tremendous amount of worry about all that, right? And that's heavy because we're also carrying all these rocks with us. But what if we just shifted it and said, I'm going to plant into the ground and feel the groundedness of the earth, the shoredness of that, and reach to my highest level of potential. Look at the fact that now there's only this vertical line where it's only the moment that exists. We've literally gone from worrying about all the other moments around us that we cannot live in any of. We're not in the past, we're not in the future, we're only here and now. So what would it look like if we literally grounded and reached for that highest level of potential in that moment? And that creates that simplicity and surrender to trusting the process.
That's a good example. I love that example.
And my friend is actually a dancer, and I had shared that with her the other day, and she was having some struggle. And when I did that with her, she goes, I teach my little kids to literally go on one foot and feel it in their core and pretend like there's a string drawing you up into the sky. And that's how they learn balance. So here with the same thing, there's nothing here. We're never going to balance.
It's heavy.
The only way to balance is present mindedness, and realize that the only moment that you could ever be in is stop worrying about time and space and tasks and how much did you get done in your list and how much didn't. And all you can do is be here now.
Mm-hmm. So here's some items that go with that. Okay. I made some notes on trusting the process without. So if you're not trusting the process, what happens? And then what happens with trusting the process? So when we're not trusting the process, that's where we have fear, disappointment for the results, concern for the future. It can look like a lack of confidence in someone. And then what I said is that it can derail the conscious decisions that you've made. You go back and question the acceptance of something because you're judging it again, and the awareness, you're not seeing it like you saw it before. So it decreases overall enjoyment. So that's on that side. But when you can trust the process, then you're creating persistence. You are persevering. Even when things are not going to plan, you'll still persevere. You're leaning into and learning the opportunities It increases your enjoyment then when all of a sudden these opportunities are showing up for you. You have absolute passion for every experience. That's what I love the most. And that's why this learning and engaging is so much fun, because it's just what it is. We are making it fun. We're not putting anything out. We're just trusting what's happening. So that gets us back into when we talked last week about the levels. It keeps us in a win-win, but a really in that sixth level of flow and synthesis and just moving. But it is helping us. We have to. That's when we're getting in tune with ourselves. And you might need a coach. You might need someone to help you go into this, because there's the external, but then there's the internal. And it's hard to fight some of these internal battles, the limiting beliefs, the assumptions, the gremlins that we have that are trying to pull us back. But once we can tap into that, it is like the world is your oyster, because everything's good. And you can make progress, but this is just about the journey. And that's when I loved when you spoke earlier, Brene Brown, talking about that imperfect journey, and that life doesn't go from A to B, but it's a meandering of, okay, maybe a little back to get forward. So that's fun. It is fun. I love that. I'm going to be this.
You're going to do that? Yes.
Be that.
Yeah, I do that with my clients a lot when I can tell they're kind of worrying about balance. I'm like, well, what would it look like if we just completely stop looking at balance as if we're trying to hold on to two different things or more than one thing, and just be here now.
Yeah.
Because you're already the best you can be right here, right now.
Right.
That's the perfection of the imperfect journey.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And we just need to go after life's purpose. I mean, and we instill those beliefs inside of us, go after it, get some dreams out there, really, really dig deep. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
And we're all
Try. Just see what happens.
Courageous. Be
Be
courageous.
courageous. Oh my gosh. Curiosity and courageous, all those nice, pretty words.
Yep.
all those keywords, and we're all doing the best we can.
Right.
And so is everybody else.
Right. We have to learn too. Those people learn. Those people have already been there, done that, and we can come too. Other people haven't learned. We can help bring people together. We can learn what we want to learn when we want to learn. So it's just, we don't have to judge it. We just kind of, you get to play in your own world. But what's next week?
And when you're ready to make that change,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
just contact me in the link below.
You have 4 coaches here
Yeah.
Right?
to help you.
Yeah.
So exactly.
Yeah, so that's, and this was discipline number
4.
4 out of 10.
Right.
And so I don't have my list with me. What's discipline?
Authenticity is the
Authenticity.
Number 5, authenticity.
Okay, now we're going to get into who I am, the really grounding ourselves a little more so that we can trust ourselves and be whole with ourselves. I love authenticity.
So make sure you subscribe.
Oh yeah,
Right.
tell us how to subscribe.
Subscribe button below.
Yeah. You're watching us all on our LinkedIn as well as Facebook and everywhere else, but you're in our YouTube site, so you can
And our
subscribe
YouTube
below from our YouTube channels.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
And join us and give us some feedback, comments, share, lots of insights.
Likes and dislikes. What can we do better for you? What more do you want to hear?
Yeah,
Yeah. We're learning, and hopefully you're learning too.
for sure.
So
Good.
thank you, ladies.
Hey,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you again next week.
Yep.
Good.
great.